Hi, everybody. Welcome to our conversation show today. We're talking today about seeing beyond illusions, seeing beyond your limiting beliefs, and also creating a reality that truly serves you. I'd just like to say before we start that in this series, we've been creating some YouTube shorts, some short 1-minute videos that have just taken some of the highlights from our series so far. So if you'd like to have a look at those, you're welcome to go across to our Coaching from the Soul YouTube channel. And as always, if you've got any questions or comments, feel free to pop them in the chat just as we go and we can bring them up. As we kick off today, I thought I would start with a bit of a question. And the question is, when do you feel resourced and connected to wisdom? When do you feel anything is possible? And what happens when you operate from that place? Just give you a second to have a think about that one. And what I'm going to do today is kick off the introduction, actually with the help of some images to just explain what this looks like to me. And then we'll bring in our panel and have some discussion. So here we go. So as I think about those questions and also just think about this seeing beyond illusions, I put together these 6 cards from a game I have. I thought that was a really helpful way of seeing and describing this. So I'm going to go from left to right, but for me, on the left, it can be really easy sometimes to get caught in our thinking. We've got to-do lists, there's lots of things going on at work, there's lots of things going on at home. Sometimes it can just feel really heavy. And I think the weather is a great metaphor for our thinking, and sometimes it can feel a bit like being caught in a storm. And I'm somebody that quite likes to walk, and I find that's helpful. But this picture for me on the left also highlights how sometimes we can be walking but not paying attention to our surroundings. And what we're seeing instead is it's kind of all of our thinking, like, oh, I've got to do this, and what am I going to do, and what's going to happen here? And it can just kind of feel quite overwhelming sometimes. And so moving to that second picture, also it's quite easy to have thinking that's creating these imagined monsters. The card there kind of showing some fun at the bottom, but this imagined monster in the background. And personally, I found it really helpful to notice when my thinking is having an imaginary conversation with someone, thinking about something that's happened or is about to happen, and really going into like, well, what's going to happen here? And the other thing I've noticed that seems quite typical is the thinking isn't often, oh, this is going to be great, like we're going to go and do this and I can collaborate with this person and this is what's going to happen. It can quite easily go to, oh, what's going to go wrong here? Like there's a tendency to plan for all eventualities rather than to think of the positives. And there's a real opportunity, as we said in last week's discussion, to notice that that's going on. Like there's a huge power in that. And as we look ahead to the third card, what I've noticed too is this, well, if we think of our well-being as innate, it's always there, the sun in this picture, then actually just sometimes it's there, but it's struggling to get through the thinking. It's there, but there's a cloud of thinking that's getting in the way, and it can be really helpful to remember that it's still there. Like those times when the thinking isn't there, you know, when the walk has been long enough for the cloud to go, or There's times where we do some exercise or we go in the shower, or those times when our thinking tends to clear. Those are the times for me when wisdom shines through again. For me, I see particularly that a 30-minute walk, like the first half might look a little bit like the left-hand side, but the second half is usually, right, I've got it, this is what I'm going to do. I've reconnected to that innate wisdom that's inside, and I know exactly what I'm going to do when I get back. So to the fourth image, there's a invitation there to escape, like this kind of rope coming out, the blankets tied together. Like when we notice there's that opportunity to escape from that thinking and realize that, hang on, how much of that was actually happening in the real world, and how much of that was happening up here. And for me, the fifth picture is a great example of this idea that we're one thought away from a different reality. On one side, it can look quite bleak, and on the other, pastures green. And there's a very different feeling to both of those. What comes up for me on this topic is this idea that we feel our thinking. The left-hand side being very much about, okay, so that's what that thinking feels like. But actually, there's an opportunity to notice that and actually to move on and experience a different set of thinking. And on the far right-hand side, you can see this creating a new reality. Like when we're in that place of hope, or in that place of being connected again to that inner energy of life, like suddenly we're in that place where everything seems possible. Those dreams of where we want to go seem possible again. The next step becomes clear. The thing that we imagine doing with other people, it's like, oh, actually, I'm resourced now. I can go out and have that conversation. It feels good. So for me, the opportunity when we talk about seeing beyond delusions is to notice and to see how we can go from the left to the right, and how, particularly in the middle with the sun, that our well-being was always there. The feeling that we had was the prompt from within, just to say, this is what that thinking feels like, but there is an opportunity to move on from that. And for me, linking that back to physical well-being, just a walk is sometimes enough, just to move past that. And I wanted to share just a little quote from a book. The book's called Consolations. It's a wonderful book. It talks about the solace, nourishment, and underlying meaning of everyday words. And I thought this quote spoke to the topic of today. Beauty is the harvest of presence, the evanescent moment of seeing or hearing on the outside what already lives far inside us. The eyes, the ears, or the imagination suddenly become a bridge between the here and the there, between then and now, between the inside and the outside. Beauty is the conversation between what we think is happening outside in the world and what is just about to occur far inside us. And for me, that's a lovely quote about the power of noticing, the power of having that insight, and the power of looking inside for the answers rather than outside, and of realizing that the inner world is often what's causing the feelings rather than what's happening in the outside world. So just bringing up our questions again. When do you feel resourced and connected to wisdom? When do you feel anything is possible? what happens when you operate from that place? Well, for me, it's those times when I'm connected to that inner wisdom, when I can sense that aliveness. And what happens when I operate from there? Well, I feel unstoppable. Like that's where the flow state is. That's where the productivity is. So I'm going to, in a moment, link across to our panel and we'll have a discussion on the topic today. We've actually prepared a number of images, actually, just to help the discussion. And so as we go around our panel, where they have something that links to one of those images, I'll also bring that in as well. So thanks very much, everybody, for coming and joining us today. And I think our first person that we're going to hear from today is Edwin. So Edwin, I'm just going to bring you up into our conversation.
Cool. That works for me. Graham, beautifully sharing. And a couple of things came to me. The first thing that comes to me is, oh boy, I do have a full deck of cards in my mind playing all the time as you were sharing yours. And what is becoming more noticeable to me is that as I examine this, the nature of my own perceptions and beliefs, I began discovering that by recognizing this illusion, I can liberate myself from unnecessary sufferings and limitations, self-imposed. In other words, as I venture deeper into this realm of this understanding, the more I peel back the layers of perception and beliefs and uncover the profound truth that lies beneath the surface, I gain more power to free myself from a non-productive habitual thinking. And when it comes to me, it's like I imagine myself just walking through this dense fog, and where things appear, distorted, obscured by the mist, and within this haze of uncertainty, it is easy to become disoriented. And when I do, I tend to lose sight of my own path. Um, just walking through this fog of my own perceptions, I find myself snared by illusions of fear, doubt, limitations, you name it. And yet, by piercing through the veil of this illusion, I can also reveal the clarity and truth that have been waiting patiently beneath the surface. And that to me is empowering. It's almost, I go back to one time that I was watching this magician perform his tricks, and everybody was, including me, completely in wonder and amazed of what the guy was doing. And yet, upon a closer inspection, I realized that the magician's own ability to do these tricks had deceived my senses. And in much of the same way, my perceptions and beliefs often create the illusion of reality and leading me to believe in the solidity of my own experience. But if I get to examine it even closer, I come to understand that reality is far more fluid and easily influenced than I once imagined. So that's my take, Graham.
Thank you. And I think if I we had a couple of quotes that we've tended to bring up in our conversation before, and one of them that we selected for today's conversation was this one. You know, our greatest illusion is to believe that we are what we think ourselves to be, and
Indeed.
that speaks wonderfully to what you've been talking about. I'm going to bring in David for a moment just to hear from him. Thanks.
Yeah, just kind of building off of what Edwin and Graham have been talking about. And Graham said something that I actually wrote down called the power of noticing. And I think that's where we start to see how our thoughts are creating our reality, which are creating the illusion of our life. So I think the power of noticing your thoughts, taking time to notice your thoughts, taking time to see, why are my thoughts coming the way they are, and how are my thoughts creating my reality? We've all watched politicians answer questions without answering the question that was asked. That shows you how powerful this creating an illusion can be. These politicians are asked a direct question and they answer something totally different. So their illusion is they're trying to build this world for the person asking the question. So it just shows you that our minds can kind of create anything out of whatever's presented to us. So by noticing where our mind goes, by noticing how our thoughts are, where our limitations are, when we start to notice that, we can create a new illusion, and we can create any illusion we want with our mind. We can, there's nothing more powerful than a 5-year-old in a Superman suit. He's the most powerful person on the planet because his illusion is he's Superman and he can do anything. So it just shows you that power of noticing can just change your life. As soon as you start to see where your thoughts are going and where your kind of illusions are, and see the reality of life and kind of spring forward to that. So that was all I had to offer at this point.
No, thank you. And again, just as you were talking there, I was looking at our little bank of quotes, and one of the ones we'd selected for today's topic was this one that by doubting we come to inquiry, and then through inquiry we perceive truth. And I think that's what we're kind of talking about, that remembering, as you said, going back to that child in the Superman costume, like just how that can feel, because the feeling is the one that kind of takes us to the places we want to go. So Roisin, I'm gonna just bring you in and interested to hear your perspective. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. And David, thank you. I loved the image of the 5-year-old boy as Superman. And I love the simplicity of that and like the feeling that invokes. One of my favourite quotes is, "Thought creates our world and then says, I didn't do it." And I love that because I'm more and more seeing how true that is. And I think for me, there's been a real, I want to say learning curve, but maybe not quite, but I see through a bit of the illusion. And then that feels really cool. And then that might stay the same for a few weeks, a few months, a year. And then I realised, oh no, there's still some of the illusion left. And there's still a bit more. And all the time, things that look like reality are still dropping away for me. And things that definitely don't look like thoughts and look like truth to me, more and more start to fall away. And I think I find it really interesting how real things can look and how real things can seem. And yet, just by changing or noticing something different, it's so powerful at how then that changes. And I loved, Graham, I loved the card you had with the sky, and there was a guy climbing up a ladder, kind of cutting out one of the clouds, that one in the top right corner. I just think is absolutely beautiful, because I think one of the illusions for me that felt so real is if I think of every human being as the whole entire sky, sometimes I feel like I can just forget that. If the thoughts are then the clouds, they're what come, what go. There might be a cloud of fear, a cloud of frustration, anger. Sometimes I kind of live as that cloud and forget I'm the whole sky and that the cloud can go. And I suppose it's the illusion of being in the reality of that cloud. And sometimes I just forget that we're all the whole sky. And the sky doesn't try and fix it when it rains. It doesn't think, oh no, I've got something to do here. I've got a problem, I'm raining, I need to sort something out, I need to change, like, it just knows it's cool. Like, it knows it's fine. It's what kind of being the sky is. It's part of nature. It's designed that way. And yeah, that card and that image really reminded me of the illusion that sometimes I don't see through, of being in the cloud and stuck in the cloud. So that's what that card kind of provoked for me.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's such a powerful image that we create our world, and that there's more to see. Again, just on my little quote day, but we seem to pick some good ones out that are coming naturally with the conversation. But if you would be a real seeker after truth, it's necessary that at least once in your life you doubt, as far as possible, all things, and that speaks like to your continued journey of seeing more and more like how much is thought and how much isn't thought. Like I love your phrase, like the sneaky thoughts that we've had come up before. So yeah, thanks for that. John, I'm going to bring you into our conversation. Welcome.
Thank you, Graham. Thanks everybody for the brilliant sharing, and some of the insights that I'm seeing here is the greatest illusion that I have lived is that I'm not enough. The greatest illusion that I have lived is that I'm not connected, and I'm seeing my illusions as negatives, as opposed to what Edmund talked about. Reality is far more fluid. That if we have the illusion, or we can create the illusion that we're not enough, we can create the illusion we're not connected. We can create any illusion. And the question we're asking, when do you feel that you are enough? When do you feel that you're working out of your power? That's a positive way of working with this idea that we can create illusions. So let's create the illusions of a life that serves us better than the illusions of the life that we're not enough. I'm beginning to think that because I've come from a family of 9 and we couldn't afford Superman suits when I was 5, maybe that's where it all goes back to. But who knows? I suspect more it's more to do with thought, and I'm going to start looking to see more in my life that I am the sky and not live my life like I'm a rain cloud. So that's what I wanted to share, and thanks for taking us through that, Graham, and thanks for taking us through the negatives into the positives of the illusions with those cards. Love that.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to bring David back in a second. It seems that his Superman is really kind of shining through today. But yeah, I love the let's go and create the world that we want to be in. And I think that I'm seeing more and more the power of when we do that, which is with our own thinking, like just how much then comes from that, and how that's such a different place to work from, like such a more energetic place to be. So yeah, David, what's coming up for you as we carry on our discussion?
Yeah, like we've been talking about the illusion and the power of noticing. And there's one illustration that was given to me a while ago. And it comes down to the I am. There's the I am, and then there's David. And when we talk about the illusion is the David part. So the David part, went to school. The David part went, had a job, had a family, was bullied, was loved, was all these things happened to the David. And so the David is the illusion. It's who I think I am, but it's not who I really am, because it's just an illusion. It's just things that have happened to me in life have created this illusion of David. But it's the I am, or it's the I am. That's the real David. And I think that's what we're really kind of talking about here. We're really kind of talking about getting back to that I am. Like, who am I before the David? Who am I before the Graham, before the Edwin, before the whoever? Who am I before that? Like, who was I when I was 5? Before the education system started to take away some of my self-confidence, before all these things happened, before I started getting in trouble from my dad or my mom or whatever, before all those things happened. Like, I tend to be a very funny guy, or I tend to think I'm funny. Maybe I'm not, but I tend to think I'm funny. And you think, oh, I was born funny. But was I born funny? Or was I bullied and found that being funny kept the bullies away, or kept me kind of a little popular, not really popular, but a little popular, right? Like, these things, like when we kind of analyze ourselves and kind of think, what illusion have I created about myself? Like, there's a lot of illusion we've created that we're not even aware of. And it's getting to that I am. Like, who am I? Like, I am this created being, interconnected with all of you guys on the panel and everyone in the universe. That's who I am. I'm like this amazing person, whether I believe it or not, whether I think it or not, whether I'm angry and hate my life and hate everyone in it. Like, before that, I am this amazing being, and I'm loved by the universe. I'm loved by God, whatever you want to call it. Like, I think that's a big part of this seeing beyond the illusion is seeing who you are before you. Why am I funny? Why am I this? Why do I do that? Why does this matter to me? Like, to get to that point where you can be the I am is the most freeing way to live in this life from what I've seen. If somebody can show me a better way to live, then show it to me, but I haven't seen it yet. So I don't want to hog everyone's time here, Graham, but thank you. And again, pull me in whenever you need me.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I love the power in all of that. And again, it speaks to this looking in a direction and inquiring and seeing what we see. Okay, I'm going to bring you in next. See how.
Hello, everyone.
No. Hi.
Thanks for sharing all your insights there. What comes to me at the moment is that card with the person climbing the ladder in the clouds with the bird. Except when I'm most connected and fully connected is when all that remains is just the blue sky. No bird and no person there, just the blue sky. That's when I'm fully connected, and that's when everything's possible. And how I perceive life or kind of experience life is this mind is a magician. It brings in all these illusions. Pictures of every one of those cards and more. And I get into the state of kind of believing those tricks of the mind. And the mind is a very powerful thing. It's, some call it the ancient human mind as the source of our illusions. And the thing is that the mind can't escape the mind. The magician can't escape the magician. It requires a higher power to remove the illusion permanently. I've experienced being that sky, the clear sky, momentarily. And in that state of the clear sky, it's like being in the eye of the hurricane. And it's extraordinary, beyond. That's truly beyond illusions. And if that's what enlightenment is, if that's what it is to be, I don't know what they call it, God realized or whatever. Call it what you will. There's no words for that state. But once you have a taste of that, that's all you want. Because it's absolute peace. It's absolute bliss. There's this, I watched this interview with Jim Carrey. And he talked about grabbing that momentary kind of state of absolute peace and always trying to reach for it because it's just there and it goes away and it's always there and it's always beyond the grasp. It's like grabbing the sky. That's when I'm fully connected. It's so rare. But man, when you're there anytime, it's like you never want to leave. I wish that for everyone, actually, even for a second. That's what I have to share at the moment.
Thanks, Noki. Yeah, that's a beautiful wish. Okay, I'm going to bring Edwin back in. Hey, Edwin.
Thank you, Naoki, for sharing that. I don't know why. Well, I think I do. But every time you're sharing something, I pay attention because it's almost noticeable to me that you're tapping into your inner wisdom. And I love that part, what comes up. To me, it's magical. Thank you. And as you were talking about, and for whatever reason, that image of that 5-year-old in the Surban custom came back again. And I began wondering, what would it look like if we were able to decipher the illusion of reality for us? What will it take? What would it look like? How does it happen? And then when it came to me, beyond that, how do we use this gift, that understanding of the illusion of reality in a way that will serve us, that will free us from all those constraints or own limiting thoughts and beliefs? And what if we were to recognize and embrace that our own experience of reality is subjective and easily influenced? And what if we can choose to see things from a different perspective and open ourselves to boundless possibilities. And that is providing that nicer feeling for me right now. That just the beautiful possibilities of understanding and using that gift.
Thank you. I'm going to bring in Sandy and then Jen, just to hear from both of you as well. Hey, Sandy.
Hi, everyone. And yeah, thanks for everything you said so far. Actually, it's always lots of insights and little pearls of wisdom and things that really resonate, actually. With the cards that you've shown so far, you know, they all sort of, I followed the whole journey when you were going through the top 6, you know, and that one on the right with the sky and the clouds. And what strikes me with that one, actually, as has been said, you know, the thing with it is, you know, the clouds pass and the sky doesn't care or worry about what size they are, what shape they are, whether they're big or small, what color they are, how thick they are, or anything, you know. It's just a case of, oh, they're there and they'll pass. And for so long, I would get so caught up in my thinking in the clouds and just not see the sky and stay stuck in that. And having that glimmer of blue through those clouds, you know, that's where the power starts, I think, you know, even if it is just a glimmer to start with. And the monsters that I've created from those clouds, you know. But actually, the thing with thinking, you know, it's seeing that more and more that it's in my head. All my thinking is in my head. And it can dissolve just like clouds, actually. Can dissolve when we see them, or I can just let them go and they'll just pass along. But one of the other things, actually, is you were sharing the cards there as well, that one of them that really resonates with me, actually, is the one on the second row, the second one in with the cello. And although I'm not sure with how clear it is there, but actually what that picture is of is the body of the cello is actually the body of the person that's depicted there. And for me, that resonates with this idea of this illusion, because for so long I thought that the instrument outside of me, I've not really played a musical instrument, actually. I played a recorder when I was at school, that was about it. So, you know, I'm not professing to play musical instruments here, I have to say. But the idea of playing a musical instrument to produce the notes, to produce the music, to have this something outside of me that was doing this for me, as opposed to actually me making the music myself, me creating the reality with however I'm playing it, however I'm playing my thinking, if you like. And that for me really resonates with me making my music. And with that, it's up to me what notes I play. Whether I play notes for a while, you know, I might not want to, but there's so much possibility and so much potential there for that. And the more I can see that actually I am the instrument, that it is me, the more freeing that is, and the more possibility there is there, because I'm not dependent on something outside of me for my reality, for whatever. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because that really resonated.
Thanks, Sandy. I'm going to bring up Jen for a moment. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that, Sandy. There's been lots of talk today of referencing the weather. So, and I agree, it makes so much sense for me when I think of it in those terms. And just like a barometer works when with the pressure and the energy of our thinking, it gives us that nudge to remind us that when we're in that low mood, you know, the feelings that we get within our body acts as a barometer to just give us a nudge when we know what we're looking for, to notice that that's all that's going on, to look for the, you know, the I am there that's always with us, to be able to play our music as who we really are. And just letting that come through in whatever means it comes through. And sometimes that's messy with the illusions that we've created in the world that we're doing. But if we are living in these worlds of illusions around us, we're just doing the best that we can, given how the world looks to us. So that's what's been springing to my mind as you've been sharing all these great shares, and why conversations like this can be so powerful when you have it with other people, because it helps to break down those illusions that we've created in our own individual worlds. You know, we can see, oh, that's how it looks to someone else. Maybe it's not quite as static as we think it is, and how real it looks to us.
Thanks, Jen. I think a nice quote, perhaps for us to finish on today. And Edwin, I think you were kind of typing something as we were going, and I think, you know, Sandy, this idea, I am one of the shortest but most complete sentences. I love that. But one of the things I think to finish on as we head towards the close today was this: is it the illusion of reality or the reality of illusion? That is the question. I saw that pop up in our chat and thought that really speaks volumes to the conversation we've been having today. Like, just that power of noticing and seeing where it's coming from, and really seeing the power that we get when we realize that actually we're more in control than we think we are. So thanks very much, everybody, for joining us today, and look forward to our conversation again, same time next week. Thanks very much, everyone.